Let me know when we go live, please.
Who bag is this? I need, who bag is this?
How? They're keeping people waiting. Hi everyone, and we're live on Pacesetters Online Business Education, Season 1. It's been an amazing year, and I'm sure you've all been waiting to know what we have in stock for you today. Today, we have so many things up and packed up. We have the Lord Mayor right here, our special guest for tonight. We have the reunion that we're going to have, and we have raffle draw. We have exhibitors lined up for tonight. And please, I'll beg you at this moment, please kindly share on Facebook, on YouTube. We are not live on Instagram right now, so we are only live on Facebook and YouTube. Please kindly share this to your people and get yourself a cup of tea, a glass of wine, and let's have a wonderful time tonight. So right now, I'll just go straight to the item of the day. Today we'll be talking a topic that is actually very, very close to our heart and what we all need to know about, which is the pandemic, that is COVID-19, and the effect on the BME community, especially in Liverpool. So I have with me my special guest. It's actually difficult to pin her down. She's been very, very busy. So I have the Right Worship, the Lord Mayor of Liverpool, Councillor Rotary, Anna Rotary. So I'm happy to have you here with me tonight. Hello, ma'am.
It's a pleasure to be able to join everybody tonight.
And she's been an amazing woman. She's the first black mayor here in Liverpool. She's impacted several lives. She has several charities that she supports, which is it's a thing that we all need to emulate. She's kind of a motivation to many of us. So I'm sure tonight she's going to be sharing a lot with us on things that she has done and our plans even for 2021, despite the pandemic. So tonight, madam, I would love you to tell us a little bit about yourself before we go into most of the topic we are going to discuss tonight.
I don't really like talking about myself, so you have to bear with me. But I mean, the reality is that I'm a working class woman, black woman, from Liverpool 8, Tottenham, which is the ward that I still represent as an elected member. My father's from Jamaica and my mother's from England. And so I was born in 1962. Very, very difficult times in 62 for black communities living in the UK. And so I grew up with lots of understanding of the disparities in terms of housing, access to employment, unequal wages and so on and so forth. And so my mother was a huge community activist because obviously married to a black man, she had a lot to contend with. She had a lot of difficulty with issues, but she had black children, and so she was always striving for the best for her children. And she raised me, to believe that everything is possible, and gave me that self, understanding and confidence in order to be able to pursue anything that I want to pursue. And I think that's a really important attribute, because you have to have a real sense of self and a sense of place. And so I was very lucky for Liverpool because I was grown up during European funding, objective on funding, when there was access to lots of educational programs for black people, and I took advantage of that. I was able to study African studies, which also gave me a great deal of confidence and sense of self and place. But it also taught me the importance of, my ancestors and the legacy that they left, in terms of the ancient kingdoms of Kush, the fact that we are kings and queens, we are all descended from royalty, and so, having that knowledge about your history is so empowering, which is why, we'll talk about it a bit later, about decolonising education. That is why it's so crucial that we do that, so that our children understand where we came from. We are not the sum total of enslavement. Every time we talk about black history, we talk about enslavement. I also think it holds us back, because what we should be talking about is the fact that before enslavement, we made massive contributions to society, through medicine, education, through architecture, through written, spoken words, etc. And that for me is where the focus should be. I'm really conscious that as young black children, growing up believing that you're part of a legacy of enslavement, it still creates issues for our children, and it's still very painful for our people and subsequently our children.
Yeah, thank you so much. See, I love everything that you just said tonight. Now, you were named as the most influential black politicians at the National Person Awards in 2019. Tell us the steps you have taken to become this successful. What have you done? What are the steps?
I've just done what comes naturally to me. I'm a huge community activist. I came into politics in 2006 because I wanted to demystify politics for people. And I also was aware of the lack of black representation within the political environment and the schemes and things. So to be quite honest with you, I have just done what has come naturally. I'm very much aware of the economic disparities. I'm very much aware of racism, institutional structural racism, and how that impacts on people's lives. I'm also very much aware about policy. People believe that when policy is written, that's the solution to the issue. That's not. That's just the beginning of the solution. So I always wanted to be part of the decision-making process and being part of implementing policy, reviewing and instill that into the structures that we all like to function within. I'm a firm believer that as black people, it is near impossible to function within structures that are inherently racist. And we do have to work, 3 times harder than our counterparts just to stand still.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you so much. Now, like I said at the beginning, that you're a role model to many, having a black person in office and actually being the Lord Mayor. So you're a role model to the black community, and you have encouraged people to strive to achieve their goals, regardless of their background. What really drives you? As in, what is the Liverpool doing to fight what this institutional systematic racism that is going on? As a person, what are you doing towards actually eradicating this?
Yeah, so we've currently got the Race Equality Task Force set up with a number of interventions in terms of the Poole City Council. But I actually was the founding member of Equality Guardians. I think that was 5 years ago. And that was looking, it was a precursor to the Equality Task Force. So that was bringing community members together to look at a range of issues, from mental health, to the prison system, looking at, stop and search, looking at policing, looking at education, employment, and business, and how it negatively impacts on us and how we change those structures. And so I brought a collective group of people together, and everybody took one of those professions, and we did a great deal of research into where the disparities are. I'm not a keen supporter of research, because I believe our community is being researched, and it's about time for action to implement that. Liverpool is probably one of the most, it's the oldest black community, as you're probably aware, in the whole of Europe, Liverpool. But also, it was also a significant part of the country in terms of, the international slave trade. And so we have history that is different to many cities, and we are still trying to come to grips with the role that was played within the slave trade, and how we deal with the disparities that have come from, and also how we actually make amends. I'm not talking about an apology. I'm talking about reparation. In terms of service, in terms of opportunities, businesses, access to employment, education, etc. And so, in terms of reparation on that scale, that we have made a start on that. little late, I'm the first to say, far too late. You know, but we are where we are, and we have to keep moving forward with this agenda.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Now, if you're just joining us, we are on Pacesetters Business Exhibition, the online version of it. And tonight we have the Lord Mayor in-house with us today. It's wonderful to have her here. If you have any question, any comment, please just put it in on the comment sections, and we'll be able to answer them. Currently, we have our panel that have several questions to ask the Lord Mayor. So I'm quickly going to invite Julie, talking on Black Lives Matters. I'm just quickly going to invite Julie on to come on screen. Julie, I believe you're there to ask a question. Julie.
Juliet,
Juliet, yeah, hi.
Thank you so much, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here at Titilayo, and of course, I'm popularly known as the African Wonder Woman, and I love what is Liverpool doing. We follow the stories. So delighted to just be invited to be part of this journey here. And my questions to the Councillor Lord Mayor Anna Rothery here today. I've got 3 questions, I believe. And so I'll just take it one at a time so that we're just able to support the growth of Liverpool. And I do like how she has started to inspire us as well. So my first question is, what has the council done over Black protest on ensuring that Black lives are improved? So that's the first question.
Yeah. Do you want to take it out? Let's take it one at a time. Is that okay?
Yes.
So yeah, okay. So in terms of the Black Lives Movement, I mean, I think it's commonly known that Liverpool had one of the first, marches around the Black Lives Movement, and we were able to mobilise the city instantly in terms of standing out, coming out, and standing up for the Black community. Liverpool's got a history of, it's like a tale of two cities, Liverpool, because on one hand you've got the history of enslavement, and then on the other hand you've got a history of real fairness and a real sense of justice. And so if it's anything to do with, any sort of equality issue, Liverpool people will always come out and fight against the inequality. And so the Black Lives Matters movement, we had a number of people who organised that, very key people within the community, Kerry and Buster Nugent, who were part of the Black community. Kerry runs the Amadudu Women's Refuge Centre, which is one of my charities, and her husband works alongside her. So they actually started getting the message out about Black Lives Matters. And the interesting thing about Black Lives Matters is that had it come at a different time and not during COVID, I think it would have had a different response. I think the fact that Black Lives Matters came to the fore at the same time as COVID, what had happened is people were sort of taking a step back, people were working from home, but it also afforded us an opportunity to have some space, and the space to be able to tap into our emotional intelligence. And instead of just looking at racism as we've done historically before that and going, isn't it awful, it's a terrible thing, and moving swiftly on, people were able to actually sit back and start to unpick racism and look at how it actually impacts on Black people's day-to-day lives, whether that's education, employment, mental health, imprisonment, and so on and so forth. And so I think that the movement, the Black Lives Movement, the level of support that is to receive, not just here in the UK, but internationally, has come about because we now have real strong social movements and real strong social movements that are really interested in human rights, and more importantly interested in human wrongs and how we put that right. And so I think in terms of Liverpool City Council, the way we responded to that, we already had discussions around the Race Equality Task Force. And so our response to that was to, still move forward with that. Our chairperson of the Race Equality Task Force is Tracy Gore, who's also the Chief Executive Officer for Steve Biko Housing in Liverpool. And they've been providing housing for our Black community for many, many years. She is well qualified in to lead the information around Black Lives Matter, and more importantly, all that information in. And so she's chairing that. But we can't just do something that's about taking evidence and more consultation, because we need to be able to deliver real change. So at the same time as Tracy doing the Race Equality Task Force, we're also linking that into our select committees, through our cabinet members, our chief executive. He has really pushed the equality agenda, and also they make sure that it's a top-down approach and a bottom-up approach, and so that all of our directors across health and social care or whatever it may be, they are very clearly aware that this is, we are pushing this. This is not just like a one-off. This is about radical transformation and change within the Liverpool City Council, and about how we do business going.
Thank you so much to Liverpool and for that answer. And my second question is, how can Black businesses and women startup capitals be supported across Liverpool? And I'll join that question as well with how well do we balance the council with improved inclusion policies, and of course what is the social impact assessment of ensuring that Black people's needs are being met in Liverpool? And I think you started that.
Yeah. Well, I'm really proud to say that we've got a women's organisation in Liverpool that has been doing precisely that support for women business for many, many years, over 10 years. But we've recently had an influx of funding from the Liverpool City region. There, Steve Rotherham is the elected mayor for the Liverpool City region. He's just invested, I think it's about £117,000 into Cumbermarney Centre. The chief executive is Michelle Charters, and so she's got real knowledge about the economic disparities in the city in terms of our Black community. And so they do work with supporting businesses, fledgling businesses, looking at incubation spaces. But also City Council has also got a number of initiatives which are about access to funding. Some of the research flagged up that it was probably 9 times more difficult for a Black person to get funding from the bank than their white counterparts. And so that's something that we've had to address. And so it's about making funding available. We've got potential businesses, and I really just have to interject here, because for me, we've got a great opportunity at this point in time. We've left Europe. We are now looking at how we trade with other countries. There is great opportunities here for our Black community in terms of trade and industry with former Commonwealth countries and Commonwealth countries, countries that we've got links with, countries that we're probably already trading with but not mainstream business, maybe just under the radar. So we have to look at Black communities and what we actually bring to the table. We've got a wealth of talent, a wealth of expertise in terms of business, and we have to make sure that the environment is able to support Black businesses going forward.
And my last question to you here tonight is, what new jobs are being created in Liverpool, and how are more Blacks being involved? And of course, how do you really nurture grassroots communities? Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because we know that there's a decline in jobs at the moment. It's not the greatest time to be creating jobs. However, Liverpool City is quite entrepreneurial anyway in terms of how we approach skills employment. We've got a film unit in Liverpool, and if you look at most films now, the blockbusters in the cinemas, many of them have been filmed in Liverpool with a very small team. We had a team of 4 people within our film unit. However, the work that was generated for the city, imagine your whole crew filming something like Captain America in the city for a couple of weeks a year, and then that was like compounded by maybe 25. So we've now got to go ahead for the film industry to be, we've got a big unit on Edge Lane, which is going to be, it's massive building. And so that's going to be the film hub for the city. businesses by being proactive and preempting, what's coming online for the city and what we can actually create. So we're doing a number of schemes around, we've got a lot of developments in the city. It's a place where people want to invest, and it's still going through that process. And so in terms of, into that industry and making sure that we've got architects, we've got people working in construction. We've just set up a new construction program for our young black men and women, so that they get a step up in the right direction. But it's also about, looking at procurement arrangements, looking at subcontracting arrangements, and how we procure and subcontract black businesses. And, looking at the Social Value Act, which is, the Social Value Act entails, not just the best price, but the best return. So, that is a great act to use in terms of increasing equality and making sure that a proportion of the potential contracts go to black businesses also.
I'm going to comment there. There's a question I have here, quite right, which says, what help is there for self-employed? Because I remember when the grant was dished out and it was announced, the self-employed were not really given opportunity to actually get grants, and it was just mainly for businesses that have a shop and things like that. So, what do the sole traders? What support do we get? We don't qualify for the grants that are being dished out?
Well, I mean, the thing is that, this is very much dependent on, we've done a lot in Liverpool, probably above and beyond what other cities have done. And so we were able to offer examples of sole traders who were in the cultural hospitality industry. We have been able to build out across all sole traders because of the financial impact that would have. However, we are still exploring options in terms of how we can support sole traders going forward. I think we're quite a proactive city in terms of, responding very quickly to the ones in international relations. And so, always this, the dilemma of how you marry that up in terms of what finances are available. And obviously, like any city council, we have to get a settlement from central government, and we put very robust business cases forward to support our businesses. Sometimes we're successful at getting funded, sometimes we're not. But we recognise, that businesses are struggling. We recognise in terms of people who are losing, their jobs. We've got a really good hardship fund in place in the city, where we actually we cover the cost of the council tax. We do a hardship fund for people who are out of work. We do food banks. We shouldn't need them in this day and age, but the reality is that many people are becoming increasingly more dependent on, food handlers, etc. So I think we're quite proactive in terms of how we respond to the new law systems, and we do everything to make sure that we've got a system in place that deals with all sides, all elements of it.
Oh, thank you so much, and thanks, Julie. I believe she'll be able to answer your question. Julie, Juliet.
Thank you so much. I'm Juliet Mahapila, the one and only African Wonder Woman, actually with 1,000 talk shows as well. Very thankful.
Thank you
So
so
nice to
much.
meet you, Julie. Wonder Woman.
She's a Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And thanks for being breaking the glass ceiling as well for us.
Glass ceiling, I call it a concrete ceiling now. We can't even see through it. So I took a sledgehammer to a concrete ceiling. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Regarding the businesses, because I'm more concerned about our businesses, how we cope and all that, and I believe the blacks, majorly in our community right now, most of the black community are actually complaining about being supported when it comes to these grants.
Sorry, you're moving in and out. Sorry, I'm breaking up. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, in our community right now, most of the black communities are actually complaining about the support they get in when it comes to their businesses.
Yeah.
Most are sole traders, and at the point I was asking, okay, so what do we get? Do we just sit back and watch and collect food banks every time, which is not actually going to pay the bills in the house? it's not going to pay the bill. So actually,
Yeah.
we need more things to be provided for the sole traders, so that
Yeah.
they are satisfied in the community. And I believe many
Yeah.
people will support me in saying that. So thanks,
Yeah.
Julie. Yeah. About your charities.
My
Okay.
charities,
Yes.
okay, so before I became Lord Mayor, my role is Mayoral Lead for Equality and Race Equality for the city. So when I became Lord Mayor, each Lord Mayor sets a theme for the year, and so my theme was equality for all. And so looking at my charity, so the first charity is Amadudu Women's Refuge, which is a charity that deals with women fleeing domestic violence, black women fleeing domestic violence and their children. And so that was a very easy choice for me, because we know that women suffer disproportionately as black women, and their children do as well in terms of accessing services. And that charity's been in our city for a long, long time, got a wealth of experience of dealing with this issue. And then I've got Liverpool City Region, which is Liverpool City Region Pride, which is about our LGBT, QIA community. And they've been established for many years, but it's also about the other groups within that, like the transgender community, etc. And you know, these charities are, you know, this is about intersectionality. I think as black communities, we're always treated as a homogenous group. We're all black and we all want the same thing, and we all want to do it in the same way, which is a huge disservice to us as black people, because we now as black community, you know, we've got all different values, belief systems, etc., aspirations, and we shouldn't be grouped together as one group. And this is why we're having a conversation around whether we should call PME, PMA, all of these things that really move us away from the individuality of people within the black community. And so that's why I'm looking at the charities in terms of diverse communities, but also intersectionality. The third one is Anthony Walker Foundation, and Anthony Walker Foundation, the young man Anthony Walker was murdered because of colour of his skin in Liverpool. And so his mother G. Walker set up the Anthony Walker Foundation to work with young people, to share and educate people about diversity, culture, faith, etc. And to basically, you know, do away with some of the stuff that was handed down from generations in terms of, you know, discrimination and inequality. And she does a sterling job. She's also one of the centres where you can register